It's Miss Liana. I am back with another story from Magical Tales from Many Lands. This is a Russian story that you might be familiar with. It's called Baba Yaga Bony Legs. The fun thing about stories like this that maybe you've heard is there's many different versions. This is the version that I grew up with this book, and I think it's really fun. So let's get started. Baba Yaga Bony Legs from Russia. Once upon a time, and far, far away, at the edge of a dark forest, there lived a girl called Masha, and her father and stepmother. And that stepmother, well, when father was there, she smiled and spoke sweet as honey. But when father was away, it was, do this, Masha, do that. And whatever Masha did, it was never good enough. Sharp words were all stepmother had for Masha. One day when father had gone to visit friends in a distant village, stepmother said, "Tomorrow, Masha, I shall make you a new dress. But first you must borrow a needle and some thread from my sister who lives in the forest." "Borrow a needle and thread?" cried Masha. She was surprised. "There are plenty of needles and a whole lot of thread in the cupboard," she said. "Don't argue," snapped stepmother. "Just go. And remember to tell my sister I sent you." "But how shall I know the way?" asked Masha. "That's easy," said stepmother. "Take the path at the back of the house and follow your nose." Now, Masha was not stupid. She knew her stepmother was trying to get rid of her. Who lived in the forest? Only the wolf, and the bear, and Baba Yaga Bony Legs, the old witch. But what could Masha do? She knew she had to go. So she combed her golden hair and plaited it in a long, thick braid and tied it with a bright red ribbon. Then she asked her stepmother to give her some food for the journey. And what was she given? A lump of stale bread and a bone with only a tiny scrap of meat left on it. And that was all. But Masha took the food and wrapped it in an old cotton kerchief that had belonged to her own mother, and then she set off. She took the path at the back of the house and followed it straight ahead through the forest. She walked and walked, one foot in front of the other, until she was so tired that she had to sit down and rest. While she was sitting there, a gray mouse crept out from under a bush and sniffed the air. "You look hungry," said Masha, and opening her kerchief, she broke off some breadcrumbs and scattered them on the ground. When the mouse had eaten the crumbs, he looked up and spoke. "Girl with the golden hair, why are you walking alone through the dark forest?" "My stepmother has sent me to borrow a needle and thread from her sister who lives in the forest," explained Masha. "Ah," sighed the mouse, "she is sending you to Baba Yaga Bony Legs. But you are a girl with a kind heart, so don't be afraid." And with a whisk of his tail, he was gone. Masha wrapped the bone and the rest of the bread in her kerchief and walked on. After a while, she came to a stand of birch trees. Beyond that, she came to a clearing in the forest. In the middle of the clearing, there was a hut with staring windows, perched on top of two great chicken legs. The hut was turning around and around and around. Masha drew herself up and said, "Little house, stand with back to forest and face to me." She wanted to make the hut stop turning, and the hut stood still. Now there was a high gate and a fence of sharp, pointed stakes around the clearing, and when Masha opened the gate, it gave a loud creak. "Gate," she said as she closed it behind her, "you need some oil on your hinges." Masha walked towards the hut, and a skinny-looking dog came bounding up to her, barking furiously. "You look hungry," said Masha, and opening her kerchief, she took out the bone and gave it to him. The dog stopped barking, picked up the bone, and set to work on it. Masha walked on. She stepped into the hut that was perched on chicken legs, and there was Baba Yaga, the old witch herself. She was weaving on a loom that went clickety-clack, clickety-clack. She was huge, with long, bony legs and a mouth full of iron teeth. Yikes. "Who are you?" snarled Baba Yaga, "and who sent you?" "My name is Masha," answered the girl, "and my stepmother, your sister, sent me to borrow a needle and thread." To borrow a needle and thread. I know what that means. Now, while I get ready, you must work. Just do the weaving while I go to the bathhouse and take a bath, and then it will be time for me to have my supper. And off she went. Masha began to weave, clickety-clack, and after a while a thin black cat came strolling into the house. "You look hungry," said Masha, and she reached for her kerchief, took out the stale bread, and gave it to the cat. The cat ate every last bit, and when he had finished, he looked up and said, "This is not a good place to be. You must run away before Baba Yaga returns and eats you with her iron teeth." "But if I run away, surely she will chase me and catch me," said Masha. "On the table there is a comb and an embroidered towel," said the cat. "Take them, and if Baba Yaga catches up with you in the forest, first throw down the towel and then throw down the comb." "But what about the weaving? As soon as the clickety-clacking stops, she will be out of the bathhouse and after me before I can reach the gate." The cat thought for a moment. "I shall do the weaving," he said. "Thank you, good cat," said Masha, taking the towel and the comb. "Now there is one more thing I must do before I leave," and she picked up a bottle of oil that was standing beside Baba Yaga's lamp. Meanwhile, the cat began to work at the loom, but he had no idea how to weave, and in no time at all he had gotten the threads twisted and tangled. What a mess and muddle he made of it! But he still kept the loom going clickety-clack, clickety-clack. When Masha stepped out of Baba Yaga's hut, the skinny-looking dog came bounding up to her. He wagged his tail and licked her hand. At the gate, she poured the oil on its hinges, and when she opened the gate, it didn't creak. But when she came to the stand of birch trees, they stretched out their branches and caught hold of her and would not let her pass. So Masha undid the ribbon at the bottom of her golden plate, and she tied a big floppy bow around one of the branches. And then the birch trees lifted their branches, rustled their leaves, and let her pass. Then Masha ran, and ran, and ran. When Baba Yaga came out of the bathhouse, she heard the loom clacking, so she didn't hurry. "Are you weaving, my little dear?" she called through the window. "Yes, Auntie," answered the cat, trying to talk like Masha, but his voice came out sort of squeaky, and Baba Yaga knew it was her own cat. She strode into the house, picked up a ladle, and flung it at him. "Why did you let Masha leave?" she snarled. "And why didn't you scratch her eyes out?" The cat curled up his tail, arched his back, and said, "For years and years I have served you, and you have never given me even a burned crust. But Masha gave me her own bread." On went Baba Yaga. "Stamp, stamp, dog! Why did you let Masha leave?" she snarled. "Why didn't you bark and bite her?" The dog looked Baba Yaga straight in the eye and said, "For years and years I have served you, and you have never given me even a dry old bone. But Masha gave me a fresh bone with meat on it." On went Baba Yaga. "Stamp, stamp! Gate! Why did you let Masha leave?" she snarled. "Why didn't you creak?" The gate said, "For years and years I have served you, and you have done nothing for me, but Masha bathed my hinges with oil." Baba Yaga flung open the gate and went through. "Stamp, stamp! Birch trees! Why did you let Masha leave?" she snarled. "Why didn't you entrap her with your branches?" The birch trees said, "For years and years we have served you, Baba Yaga, and you never even tied a piece of string on us. But Masha took her own bright ribbon and tied it on one of our branches." Then Baba Yaga jumped into her stone mortar, picked up the pestle, and used it to drive herself forward. Off she went through the forest. Whoosh! As soon as Masha heard the noise, she looked back. When she saw Baba Yaga on the path behind her, she threw down the towel. Suddenly, a great wide river flowed there, brimful of water. Baba Yaga's mortal mortar, sorry, was too heavy to float across, so she had to think of something else. She found her cattle and drove them into the river, where they drank and drank until the water was gone. Then she was on her way once more. Whoosh! Again Masha heard the noise and looked back. When she saw Baba Yaga coming, she threw down the comb, and suddenly there sprang up a great host of tall trees, hundreds and thousands of them, so close together it would have been hard for even a fly to pass through. Baba Yaga sharpened her iron teeth. She bit into a tree and hurled it aside. She sharpened her teeth again, bit into another tree and hurled it aside. On and on she went, sharpening, biting, and hurling. But the trees were so many and so close that she still could not get through. In the end, shouting and snarling, she turned around and went home. And Masha? Well, she ran and ran and ran. It was almost dark by the time she reached the edge of the forest. The lamps were lit in her own house, and her father was outside, looking all around. As soon as he saw her, he called out, "Where have you been? What happened? I have been looking for you everywhere." Masha answered, "Stepmother sent me to her own sister in the forest to borrow a needle and thread, and that sister was Baba Yaga Bonylegs, the witch. It was hard to escape, but with the help of some friends, I managed at last." When her father heard this, he was very angry. He strode into the house, but stepmother was already gone. She had seen Masha and had heard her talking to her father. She knew she had been found out and straightway had run off into the forest. And whether she reached the house of her own sister, Baba Yaga Bonylegs, or whether the wolf or the bear got her first, no one ever knew. Masha and her father never saw her again. From that time on, they lived together in peace and contentment in their house at the edge of the dark forest. This has been Baba Yaga Bonylegs, a Russian story. Thanks for joining me.